What does it really take to give a T-Rex a fade so bad he turns out to be a 50-year-old bald man with a set of extra arms? If you said anything less than a complete restructuring of his genetic profile combined with Gary from accounting, well, then I don't really know what to tell you. Distortus Rex, I don't know, was created in such a way and dealt such a bad hand by humanity, they literally fogged out a room just so they didn't have to look at it, which brings us around to today's topic. As humanity is quite literally the masters of FAFO and literally the non-masters of any security system that takes place, our species would have begun conducting some super fun experiments in an effort to create the perfect abomination to get more people to a tropical island to look at things at what is essentially a zoo. However, what we could have never accounted for was our biggest op, a Snickers wrapper. As a result of something so stupid, I imagine a bunch of producers must have had it written by AI. An outbreak would commence, resulting on basically this island where large swaths of land also are just completely uninhabitable by man. But the main question has to be asked, apart from why a multi-billion-dollar corporation just is insanely stupid when it comes to security and dinosaurs, how were the genes altered, and what did this result in when it comes to Distortus Rex? Well, let's discuss that in today's episode as we cover Jurassic World Rebirth. We kick off our story with, once again, this being Universal, which means your boy is totally boned on copyright. Universal is probably going to break my legs at some point. I'm 100% totally here for it. As we can hear birds chirping and bugs apparently also chirping because dinosaurs, it's 17 years ago, which horrifically is only 2008. As some lower primates look out into the woods, some superior primates fly above the treetops, humanity number one. This time they totally know how to contain everything, and a power grid failure will not cause any problems whatsoever. As security footage is being reviewed, scientists are in a BSL-3 room as there are mutations in Genome 7. Okay, Tank 12 then goes offline, killing that thing, as a raptor twitches in its tank. Williams walks up wanting to get it over with, as then he eats a product placement Snickers and then drops the wrapper. How that got out of his suit, I will never understand. Maybe I misinterpreted. No, I'm pretty sure it was in his suit. Turning the key, the raptor then gets Final Destination pulled into the room. Further following them into another room, it straight up prevents the door from shutting. You'd think a fail-safe alarm would then go off, but instead the computer just quietly reboots without alerting anyone what's going on. Spared no expense. It'll work this time, guys. Trust me, shut up. Running through, Broseph then says the juice is loose as one nerd trips and falls. Another scientist was extra slow getting out. Oh, Snickers man. Going to open the door, the other scientist says, nah, as Hansel over here gets sniffed by this weird thing, getting grabbed and then pulls him into the fog, as once again, we have a containment breach. Nice going, guys. Also, I get the second door didn't close, but the first door, the second door is just the fail-safe door, right? The second door is like the door. Anyways, it's now 2025, baby, or whatever year it is since you're watching this. It's been 32 years since the dinosaur's been brought back, and after that little faux pas where we accidentally did an oopsie-doopsies and made a big fucky-wucky, the dinosaurs now dominate the equatorial regions where humanity can no longer go. This idea is absolutely hilarious to me. You're telling me our species couldn't handle a few dinosaurs. We have force multipliers. Okay. Anyways, as a Brachiosaur is vibing downtown creating traffic jams, Black Widow is in the car waiting for Mr. Suave over here, telling her Felix isn't feeling himself today. He then asks her if she's a spy or something. Mr. Suave's company is developing a new medication, and Black Widow over here is not worried about the legal or ethical complications associated. She guesses info theft, as then he tells her it's dinosaurs that they want. Telling her he wants to go to the no-go zone, she says, no thanks, and gets out of the car. Following her, I guess abandoning his car, he then tells her about heart disease and how they have deep pockets. Yes, that would grab my attention as well. Asking for a number, it's 10 with 6 zeros, so 10 million. Better put that in the S&P 500, baby. The hitch? Possible criminal charges, and your friend's getting eaten. She agrees to take the job, but they are bringing a civilian as well, though he doesn't know it as of yet. Meanwhile, over at a museum, they are totally botching the idea associated with how dinosaurs needed oxygen-rich environments to exist. The museum is apparently shutting down because people can just walk outside and see dinosaurs now. So basically, the dinosaur information can somehow reverse heart disease in people. They need samples from living dinosaurs instead of just the genetic research that was being done. So they need a colossus of each species, land, water, air. Bigger the dinosaur, the bigger the coronary arteries. So Mosasaurus is up, which is horrifying, Titanosaurus, and, get ready for this pronunciation, Quetzalcoatlus. Holy whoa. Okay, hold up.
Quetzalcoatlus.
Quetzalcoatlus. Yes, I too can mimic noises that I hear online. These videos are getting like more and more unhinged as I go along. I'm sure that's not a sign of my brain melting. Anyways, allegedly it would be worth trillions of dollars, wreck the economy. That's not good. Inflation, baby. So anyways, they need to be living when the samples are taken because reasons. Honestly, most of these things don't make any sense. You know, this movie honestly doesn't make a lot of sense. But asking Dr. Loomis if he would be ready tomorrow, he doesn't want to go. Confronting them about the legality of it, Mr. Swab uses the fact that Dr. Loomis is a nerd to ask him if he wants to see the dinosaurs in the wild. Ooh, yes. I see. You hit him in the professional ego. Thinking on that for a few minutes, literally thinking on it for a few minutes, they actually let this run in the movie as he eats his Altoids. And then finally he agrees to go. This movie was 2 hours and 16 minutes. It didn't really need to be that long. So headed to Paramaribo, we are 402 miles east of the real America, or equator, I wasn't really looking. As people fish, they then pull out a giant bony-faced fish. Rough. These dudes would literally just bite things in half. This fish probably would have replaced the anglerfish in terms of hatred back in the day, but luckily, a lot of time separates me from that thing. So as Mr. Swab then walks through looking like the guy from the first movie, he then talks to a man about their agreement and how it's too risky for his boat. It's not paid off yet. He says he really can't do it this time as Black Widow apologizes and goes and grabs a beer. She suggests that Mr. Swab make a good faith gesture. Oh yes, double the amount and highway robbery the guy. Hell yeah, man. Pulling out a map, they're really like there's no patrols because nobody is dumb enough to go where they are going. Black Widow then hugs it out as Team Security shows up and tries to run the same gamut, but the joke was already used. That results in the $20 million, which I mean, hey, why not go for 40? On a boat, Team Ramrod all head out to the island of man-eating animals as Black Widow asks why they can't exist anywhere else. Everything is different now, but the equator is similar to back in the day, 60 million years ago, actually. The Mosasaur circles the island as security team lead then says he thinks they will be okay. Let me tell you 8 2.1 hour reasons why that is a dumb thing to say. You're not going to be okay. The nerd then says it's a sin to kill a dinosaur. I mean, if it's trying to eat you, then no, it's not. It's not a sin to kill a dinosaur, sorry. Getting ready to square up with my literal nightmare. I mean, the anglerfish again is my current most hated target, but this thing, no shot, brother. There's actually a VR game you can play that for some reason a mosasaur shows up. God. Anyways, everyone is like way too happy to be here. I mean, I get they'll be rich as all get out, but anyways, bro brings up some dude named Booker. Training mission in Yemen went wrong. Car concussive force detonator went off as apparently it wasn't very quick either. So the exposition for a while about funerals and then miss one another and some chick named Amelia. Wow, does everyone have like some horrific backstory here? The answer is yes. 47 miles due south of those guys, a guy and his daughter and his other daughter and her boyfriend are sailing across the Atlantic. And it just so happens, they hit a route where a freaking mosasaur probably is. Nice planning there, Dad of the Year. Cramped conditions also. Xavier then comes out and missed his turn to take the wheel. Man, his eldest daughter's choice in young men is questionable at best. Xavier getting eaten for certain. This has got to be like a caricature, right? You guys could like throw him off the boat also and be like, oh no, what happened? Eldest daughter reports that nobody sees in him what she does. Okay. What exactly? Why am I hating so much? Screaming, what are those? The eldest daughter then looks out and spots sails as the boat rumbles with something to the side of it. Bro immediately goes to check the boat as there is some surface damage, but nothing crazy. Asking if it's a you-know-what. Yes, it is a you-know-what. Attempting to capsize the boat, it is successful in its hunt. Bummer, bro. Calling out for deadbeat, the door is stuck as then he searches for the radio. Continuing his search, is this a blossoming, redeeming quality? Realizing he can't, though, he then just gets the door open as then he calls out for the old man and Xavier. Their dad swims up first as Xavier then shows up further out. Swimming for the boat, it's not looking good on that swim time there. He gets on top of the boat before he can, get his legs bitten off, and then the thing swims off. As night falls, the castaway thunderstorms roll in as everyone has continued to have a good time in general and is jazzed about being very rich, except for Black Widow having a Vietnam flashback. The nerd then shows up interrupting that great time as he says he can't sleep. He then asks if she's a mercenary, which she confirms pretty much. He then says he's never even been shot at. Absolute nerd. She tells him good night and then heads out. Except, you know where she actually goes to sleep? In the boat, obviously. But you know what she's doing before going to sleep?
What do you mean by that?
She's probably playing today's sponsor. Big news, Raid Shadow Legends is partnering with 20th Century Games to bring two of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures and humanity's biggest haters, the Xenomorph and the Predator, to the games as legendary champions. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know who these guys are, but just in case, the Xenomorph, aka Don't Let Him Near Your Planetary Colony, inspired by Xenomorph in FX's Alien Earth, utilizes deadly poison debuffs and veil buffs to take out his enemies. The Xenomorph also uses the brand new Infest debuff to strike terror into its opponents and revive itself on the battlefield. And the Predator, or in reality humanity's greatest sparring partner, whose unique armor and sword design is inspired by Deck from 20th Century Studios' Predator Badlands, is a skilled warrior, evading enemy skills before counterattacking with ruthless precision from the shadows. And right now you can get the legendary champion Xenomorph for free simply by logging into Raid for 7 days starting November 24th. This is a limited time event, so start now. Once they're gone, they will be gone forever. But you'll get the Xenomorph on day 7 and extra in-game bonuses for the next 7 days after that. But that's not all. You can also complete the Champion Pass to get the legendary champion Predator. There are two different passes, Basic and Elite. Basic is free for all players, which you just complete daily objectives and gain levels to earn in-game rewards, including gear, silver, energy, and more. The Elite Champion Pass can be obtained with a one-time purchase that unlocks an extra premium set of in-game rewards, culminating in the legendary champion Predator. Completing the Elite Pass will also earn you all the rewards from the Basic Pass as well. If you can't wait to get your hands on the Predator, you can also just pay to complete all the levels of the Elite Champion Pass instantly, so don't miss out. Download Raid now using the link in the description to start working towards the Xenomorph for free, and check out the Predator Champion Pass. If you haven't started playing yet, then what are you waiting for? Click the link in my description or scan the QR code to get amazing bonuses available only via my link. Right now, you'll get 3 legendary champions and 2 free epics. Instantly unlock a huge starter pack with Epic Zargala from the Orcs, one of the strongest Force Affinity support epics that you'll ever need in your collection. Reach level 15 and get another amazing epic from the Orcs, Tagoar, which is a powerful support champion who stands strong with his sword staff, never leaving a fallen ally behind. Again, log in for 7 days to claim the free legendary champion Xenomorph, complete the champion pass, get a legendary champion Predator, and new players can pick one of 6 promo codes for a free legendary champion of their choice. Legendary champion Green Warden Ruak, promo code TREEHUGGER. Legendary Alice the Wanderer, promo code GETALICE. Legendary Tahanarak, promo code DESERTQUEEN. Legendary Sun Wukong the MONKEYKING, promo code MONKEYKING. Legendary Tholan Foulbeard, promo code DEMONSLAYER. Legendary Ultimate Death Knight, promo code UDKING. I advise you to pick the promo code MONKEYKING because who doesn't want to fight with a MONKEYKING? As per usual, these champions are available after downloading via my custom link or QR only 48 hours after downloading with my link, just so you know. And if you go directly to the app stores or use any other link to download, you won't get these packages that Raids team gave me. So make sure to download with the link and then use the promo code in-game. Come find me under the name Roanoke and join my clan Croatoan. Anyways, back to the star-crossed lovers, a merc and a doctor. I'm not sure that's a real thing. The next morning, Dad of the Year then calls out a mayday, mayday, mayday to anyone that's listening. They are 43, kilometers out. Gross. Anyways, that's where their target is. So, hearing mayday again, they report their position as Prometheus says the boat is 23 miles in the opposite direction. Thank God, real measurements. Team security lead doesn't want to go out there, and instead, they're 3 minutes away from the mosasaur. I mean, they're already here. Prometheus then calls in a new course to be set as they go to pick up the family. They could have just done it right then. Mr. Suave says it's his charter, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles on this boat, my man. Back over at the greatest family vacation ever, Dad of the Year sees them coming as then he fires a flare, getting their attention. Pirate vessel for sure. I don't know if I want that thing picking us up. Everyone's dead. It's gonna happen. Picking them up, they then asked if they saw anything in the water, which they confirmed they did see a mosasaurus. They don't know why it would actually attack the boat specifically, as they are then asked by the family what they are even doing out there in the first place. Listen, you guys got picked up. Let's not ask too many questions here, shall we? Dad of the Year says they can just, leave them at any convenient port, wherever that may be. But there are now 2 mosasaurus signals, and that's not really great news, as, But it's good news if you want to get your blood. So looking out, they then spot a mosasaurus as it jumps out and are incredibly lucky that thing didn't just straight up land on them, ending everyone's distinguished careers. Black Widow goes to square up on it with nobody but Loomis so that they can Celine Dion Titanic on the front of it, realizing though that they are losing the creature because they were only at half power. They then up the power and get everybody ready to rock and roll Brides of Christ. Missing the shot at first, the nerd then goes to grab the dart because only he can, and having the perfect shot, Black Widow then does nothing, as instead she's knocked over and almost eaten. Taking the shot, finally they get the blood, as then they leave it alone for now. So it's all hugging it out and glad hands because, hey, there's some money. The nerd then talks about, what if they don't give the samples to Mr. Suave? The family band is pretty upset about them following the mosasaur, but hey, it's not your boat, as the sails from the boat from earlier have now shown up. Not really sure what those are. The nerd then talks about how the Spinosaurus out there, well, they're symbiotically hunting. That's not good. Little Spinosaurus, though, not the big ones. Evidently, Spinosaurus and Mosasaurus co-hunt with one another, and taking pot shots at the Spinosaurus, security claims the water was for man. Hell yeah, brother. But unfortunately, he gets grabbed and brought into the water that was for man, traumatizing the little girl in the process, as then he's taken off and eaten. Yeah, I guess we probably could have seen that coming. The Mosasaur is now back, as you've got 2 issues in the water, boating out of there. Best plan I've seen, really. Then heading to the shallow waters, Dad of the Year can't move his leg. The engine is now overheating because, of course, this boat totally sucks, as Dad of the Year then sends his eldest daughter in, and she starts calling Mayday as Mr. Suave tells her to stop. Grabbing her, she then slips, which, oh man, renegade option incoming. She drops into the water as, no way, you mean Xavier isn't a one-dimensional douche the whole time? Because he jumps in after her. Dad of the Year then goes to yeet his younger daughter into the water as they both jump. The Mosasaurs, being their greatest op, then runs into them and then runs them into the rocks as they dump the materials they have floating away and then enter the shallows. Broham stops looking as he immediately then runs into the shore and up onto a bunch of rocks where the boat will never move again for the rest of the time that Earth is around. I mean, probably. I mean, eventually Rust will get it, but the family band then reunites in a cave system as Merc Team arrives on shore. See, the issue is the Spinosaurus can also walk on land. So, yeah, that's probably not a good thing to just totally ignore. So anyways, Prometheus then grabs a picture of his son as they attempt to drag everything on shore before the Spinosaurus show up and ruin everyone's life. Nina doesn't notice the giant Spinosaurus entering the water behind her, which then grabs her. Question, why would you turn your back on the sea if you knew these things were out there? That was just incredibly dumb. Frenchman then gives himself a blood disease by grabbing that thing as back at the family band, they start making their way through. Looking out, it's beautiful. Xavier then asks, when an old person buys a bed, do they see it as their deathbed? Because that's exactly what he's looking out there seeing as well. Mr. Suave finally tells them actually what this place is. It was a laboratory of sorts that made genetically altered dinosaurs. So basically any malformed animals or ones that were too hard to look at ended up here. From an accounting perspective, it was easier to just bring everything here. Black Widow then tells them they just need to get out there with the other 2 blood samples and everyone's all good. Cutting a wire for some reason, she then tells them if they require it for 24 hours, a flyby will be done by tomorrow night as they hear a roaring from behind them. Picking up the pace, yes, engine pipes. They're still warm as the geothermal power is being used to power that town that they'd mentioned earlier. The family plan is to follow the pipes to the village as Xavier then reports he has some of the devil's lettuce. Good thing to tell potentially a father-in-law that. Meanwhile, Merc Team keeps moving through chest-deep waters, just hanging out. Better start running through the jungle with this one as Black Widow confronts Mr. Suave about how he didn't help the girl that fell over the edge. I mean, first, okay, in all of that insanity that was taking place, first off, how did she know he was anywhere near her? Because I don't think he could see into that room. And like, how does he know? Oh, excuse me, how does she know he couldn't grab her? That happened like super fast. Anyways, Prometheus says he refuses to just die in a jungle. The nerd then says he wants to die in a shallow sea and be covered in silt so that he can be fossilized. Sticking true to that nerd stereotype, he then talks about intelligence being overrated as an adaptive trait. He continues to talk about how if Earth gets tired of mankind, it will shake us off. Not likely. As Mr. Suave then is just apparently hanging out in the water, as a creature comes for him, he jumps out. What was that thing in the water? It will never be told what that was. Anyways, turns out jungle water isn't safe in the slightest. Back over to the family band, a plant-eating thing then squares up as the eldest daughter chases it off. Dad of the Year thanks Xavier for jumping in to save his daughter as something is around them. Seeing a lot of movement, they then change course. Back at the Merc group, they now agree to try to size up the Quetzalcoatl, good God, the big bird, as Mr. Suave then drinks diarrhea juice from a creek before finding dog tags. Looking up, a plane has crashed, leaving a tutorial loot force multiplier behind. The family band decides to stop for the night as Xavier takes over his watch as he reports the pipes go up over the hill, hopefully towards the village. Dad of the Year says he was wrong about Xavier, but then Xavier's like, no, you're right, I'm lazy. Okay. Way to kill the vibe. Sharing a bonding moment, though, they are definitely killing off Xavier. Probably. I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know, is he dead? Does he die? We'll find out. So one of the two is really going to happen as a dinosaur chitters again. It then goes to square up on the youngest, who then gives it some food. If the second movie is anything to go off of, the copies will eat her. However, apparently not like this, as she now acquires her very own Dr. Mambo in reptile form. Very good. Xavier, meanwhile, much like in my Sinners episode, decides to go pee, and then he just walks 3 years away. As he does, he's actively being hunted by something, but as he's about to get straight up eaten, another creature then flies off with a thing that was going to eat him. Okay, then, continuing his pee, I suppose that is the only option after not even really witnessing anything, but hearing that go down. And back over at Team Merc, they have entered Jurassic Park 2 grass, never good. Hearing more bellowing in the distance, someone with several fog machines is going ham, also the distance, and hearing that nerd eat his Altoids, product placement, and he's completely unaware of what that is, the Titanosaurus is there with them. Fire the dart. Running towards them, it's a whole pod of them. Loading the dart gun, the nerd then goes, while they're distracted, because they're trying to go heels to Raptor Jesus. Maybe not a great time to touch that thing, as the nerd then starts crying because this is his favorite dinosaur, as Black Widow then lines up the shot. Nerd, get out of there. Hitting in the neck, it's annoyed, but nothing really happens. For now. They also have sails on their back because they are genetically mutated as well, as the dart then fires off, having taken the blood. 2-3 down, so now they just need to track down the big bird. If you know anything about Jurassic Park, there's always going to be some calm thing that happens right before it all goes to crap. Back at the family band, Dad of the Year is having leg issues, as then they question if they really need to bring along this Dr. Mambo. Yes, you do. It's a Dr. Mambo. I would never leave mine behind. She then goes to give it the incorrect name of Dolores, non-canon event, it's Dr. Mambo. Xavier is in the middle saying maybe this whole thing will actually work out, as then he falls to his death. We hardly knew him. The rest of the band then follows suit with the dad further injuring his leg as Dr. Mambo falls as well. Looking around, they smell something. Dr. Mambo doesn't like it and then bounds off. Looking across the river, they spot a structure of sorts. There's a boat in there. It is assumed. I'm not sure how the eldest daughter knows there's a boat in there, but apparently she does. Entering the healing waters of Lake Minnetonka, she begins making money moves towards the inflatable raft that she can't see. Seeing a disemboweled dinosaur, they then tell her to hurry and grab the boat. Looking over, oh man, it's one of those toxin spitter things. Throw a rock at it. Instead, though, it punks out as a T-Rex rolls over during its nap. Going for the boat anyhow, she grabs one of the customary square flashlights as expected, as then she spots the emergency raft in the back. Dr. Mambo has reluctantly come back as the eldest daughter drags the raft to the water. How that thing hasn't woken up yet is beyond anyone at this point, and then pulling the handle at the wrong time, the T-Rex then wakes up. That was really, really dumb. You know, rather than do what you're doing, why not hide for a little bit? Throw a rock in the distance, just get the T-Rex to go away, or everyone just run for the raft, I guess. I don't know. Floating away, not really a great option. Of course, the T-Rex then spots them, so one must ask, would it really hunt for sport, or would it just sort of not care? It's already eaten, so as it starts coming at them, it only seems vaguely interested at first. Oh god, it could swim fast as well. Does everything on this island swim faster than the craft trying to escape it? Apparently so. Flipping the raft for the love of the game, they now end up in the rapids. Luckily, it's bad at aiming and can't get to him in time to eat the father. Getting behind a rock structure, the youngest daughter keeps screaming from inside the raft. Or just keep floating by and don't alert that thing you're in there. Well, you can always make another one, Dad. What's 8 more years, right? Or 12. I really don't have any idea how old his daughter is. Also, why is this T-Rex so interested in eating them if it has a whole dinosaur over there with plenty of meaty legs to eat? The T-Rex at this point decides the loading screen area is too much for it, as it nopes out, despite the fact that it could just walk around the rocks as the raft somehow survive and then pops back. It could have literally walked around those rocks. Okay, back over at Merc Squad, they have approached a vertical slab that they will have to descend. The nerd then says they could try to get a sample from the parent, but it's a carnivore the size of an F-16, so no thanks. Attaching their lines, the nerd immediately falls to his death. Thanks for watching. Descending down, well, ain't Black Widow chipper again. Meanwhile, Prometheus up top gets yelled at by something that runs down into some stairs. Alerting Mr. Suave, the nerd almost falls to his death, as then they get the egg's location. Assumed egg location. Finding eggs, the nerd then starts pulling juice from it as Black Widow asks what the alternative to handing over the samples is. Like, how would this even look? They then kind of discuss the ideas like, well, we open source it so that not one person owns the samples. Or corporate espionage kills you. One of the two. They then make no money and are totally broke, and now they're hunted down. Wonderful. Meanwhile, Frenchman is being stalked by the big bird, which then returns home. It's not really a bird, it's a reptile, but you get what I'm saying. Somehow, not hearing that thing attached to the entrance is everyone deaf. It begins going after them as Black Widow then calls out, but can't do too much. The sample gets knocked around as the Frenchman then throws a hammer at it. That was really stupid, and pulling up the Frenchman, and then starts crawling up after him, which then pulls the nerd and the sample over the edge. Continue to pull up the Frenchman. The nerd then goes for the sample as Black Widow tells the dude the line is about to snap. The Frenchman has already been eaten pretty much, not a great way to go, as then they go and run down the stairs instead of opting, not to be eaten. The nerd is on his own at this point as then he falls but hits every branch on the way down of the ugly tree, slowing him down before falling into shallow water. The other team members show up having taken the stairs instead and survived. And would you look at that? The sample also survived. How apropos! Acquiring all 3 of the Infinity Blood Diamonds, they elect to now just head home. Back over at the family band, it's nothing but rafting and starving from all that rafting. The caloric output would go absolutely crazy style at this point, and following the pipes, they approach a wall, more specifically a blown-out electrical fence. Very good. 10,000 volts it claims to the Merc team, as they don't even throw a stick to confirm if it is in fact electrified. Checking for signs of anyone, Black Widow happens to find footprints as Dr. Suave over here wants to get out of there. Don't even know why I called him Dr. Suave. He's Mr. Suave. He didn't go to medical school. Taking the samples from Mr. Suave, everyone then calls out to the Merc team, but nobody answers. Luckily, everything on the island can hear them yelling. Reuniting with Mr. Suave, he's then accused of letting the eldest daughter fall. I mean, he's got his tutorial, force multiplier out, and she accuses, I get it. All right. It looked like the dude didn't really have that much time to react. They are trying really hard to make him look horrific, but it seemed to just go down pretty fast. I don't know. It could just be me. It didn't really... This is kind of a weak villain. That's all I'm saying. He's just more, morally ambiguous. So as they bicker back and forth, a noise can be heard. Allegedly, it's the generator. So as the generator roars in anger, they suggest maybe this place is deserted in the daytime, but at night, as music starts playing, maybe it's not deserted. Why, you may be asking? Well, why not? So, flying freaking raptors now show up, which is all I can see, these things, that's what they are, as then they run inside. Getting separated, they shut the door as Dr. Mambo stops to eat some food. The Merc team appears stuck outside as Nerd and Prometheus find the lab where the crossbreeding mutations were taking place. Black Widow decides to run as Mr. Suave attempts to shoot the Fraptor, sounds like a coffee, as then he gets ejected from underneath the vehicle. The youngest then spots Dr. Mambo, as in the ceiling, the Fraptors have arrived. I think I need a better name, but too bad, I'm keeping it. One has now entered the building. Conducting a search, the Fraptor sees itself as Dad of the Year throws a can, getting its attention. Entering a convenient drain that leads to a tunnel system, they find out it goes through the whole island as they start looking at the creatures and what they've created. The nerd is freaking out about the horrors of it, and it's more interesting than anything I would say, but the helicopter has now arrived as Prometheus goes to get the family band, but the nerd hears something around the other side. It's big, scary, and bald. As the helicopter searches, the pilot then says they have to circle for 2 minutes and then leave. Mr. Suave, meanwhile, is still hiding, but finds keys as he jumps into the truck. Black Widow goes and hides as Mr. Suave attempts to run over the Fraptor, but now it begins sniffing around, looking for her instead. But, giving up almost immediately, it just enters the drains. Okay. So the pilot then gives up after 2 minutes as the nerd then heads out to do his original job. He waves at it, but surprise, surprise, they can't see you in the dark, you dork. Going to grab flares, he then fires one off as they see them finally. Of course, that's not the only thing that saw that flare, as Baldy has arrived. Seriously, everyone pays no attention to what's behind them. There's Cronenberg dinosaurs everywhere infesting this island, and you don't pay attention to what's around you. How do you not hear this thing? Hilariously, though, as if almost divinely, Baldy has grabbed the helicopter, which gets yeeted and blows up. Yeah, shit. Opening the drain as the family band emerges, Prometheus tells Nerd to get in the drain and chill out, with the Fraptor down there because it's already entered the drainage pipe. Also very good. Developing a preliminary plan, 40% of the plan, they decide, is going to involve them just going to the dock to get a boat. Meanwhile, Mr. Suave is alerting everything within a 20-mile radius while heading to the docks because the car alarm is going off. May as well be ringing a dinner bell. Black Widow then brings down the Fraptor as now they are stuck behind this gate. Getting stuck, they send the youngling through. Another Fraptor is trying to break in as Dr. Mambo starts making danger calls as Baldy has shown up. The Fraptor has basically gotten in at this point, as finally the youngest gets the gate open, which gets Baldy's attention. Don't let that grab you with its weird arms. Mr. Suave now shows up, getting its attention as it stops the car. And by stop, I mean it used its weird arm to bring it down in the car. Prometheus is the last to do a leap of faith out of the tunnel as Mr. Suave gets picked up by Baldy and then bitten in half immediately. Ouchies, not a great way to go on that front. Again, dude just, I don't know, he just was there to complete the thing that they were supposed to do. You could look at it and be like, oh, he didn't help that girl. I don't know, man. that all happened pretty quick. Like the way they had to slow down time and were like, oh, what do I do? It's like, I don't know, man. Anyways, so running off towards the docks, they then start to hoist the whole thing, which is making a ton of noise. And interesting how everything here has an alarm attached to it, except the security gate holding back the D-Rex and burning out, and then the system rebooting. There was no alarm system for that? Okay. You just never watch something and you're like, why, God? Anyway, so Baldy is now shown back up as it is attracted to the light. Prometheus then pops a flare to get its attention, and I feel like every scene of this movie is either from the first movie or the second one. Oh god, the music is getting solemn. Luckily, Baldy is actually hip to the plot as he slowly approaches the light, giving them enough time to talk as Prometheus then jumps into the water. Black Widow hits a chain with a pipe for some reason. Okay, as Prometheus, get rid of the flare, dude! What are you doing? Going out like a Giga Chad, the flare then goes out, and the golden rule is, if you didn't see his death, it probably didn't happen. We'll find out. Baldy then shows back up as they get the boat going, as it swings at them, but misses. Poor little fella, his body don't work so good. Giving up immediately because, I don't know, his vision's based on light sources. Black Widow then calls out for Prometheus. I'm sure he'll show up on like a beach just prior to leaving or something, and I'm calling it now. As then, my god, a flare then fires off, and they turn the boat around and start searching for him, which he shows up on a beach. Okay, he doesn't show up like on a beach adjacent, a little further out in the water, but I have been doing this for too long. I can predict tropes at this point in my life. Noping out of there, everyone is super happy to be alive as Black Widow is down several $1 million and friends. Well, what a crapshoot that turned out to be. Looking at Nerd, she then asks, well, who do we give it to? Your company contact is gone anyways, and so she's like, well, let's just open source it. Again, I just don't think Mr. Suave was that horrific of a dude. So as dolphins swim along the boat, everyone who wasn't mortally ambiguous has survived, as thus concludes Jurassic World Rebirth. My god. Hello, and welcome to the science portion. Like me, you're probably thinking, alright then, well, that was one of the movies of 2025, and I agree, it definitely was, but several questions have been brought up regarding how many of these things were even possible. Now, the most glaring one is, like, how could humanity even, like, fathomably lose parts of the planet to these things? You can say, but Roanoke, what about the Australians losing the Emu Wars? And to that I say, yeah, but they're Australian, so it really doesn't even count. They were too worried about, I don't know, their ground tethers being rusty and them falling into the sun if they, you know, if they got hit by a boomerang or something. Anyways, so not maybe giving too much credibility to Australians, I know, but there are a few things concerning the ecological issues as well as the genomic splicing that I would like to talk about in the science portion here, because let's be honest, the lysine contingency in the first movie was way more of an interesting concept, despite the fact that lysine has always been acquired through environmental actions instead of some sort of esoteric genetic alteration meant to self-limit their reproductive capabilities and long-term spread. Have I mentioned that? I mean, actually, you know what? Go watch that episode. It's got Pete Goldblum in it, so it's just worth a watch. And also, you know, it helps out the channel. And the idea is quite hilarious. Anyhow, so let's start from the beginning, shall we? Look, I'm not here to make waves, but the main thing I want to complain about to you is the reasoning for the dinosaurs existing in these areas versus in other areas. First off, I am not CinemaSins out here, but I did want to kind of hold a mirror to these movies' own, or this movie in particular's own explanations real quick, and explain how this is like when you were a youngling and you made up a superpower playing with another youngling and they were always making up a new superpower on the spot that just counteracts yours. It was dumb. You can't just say a whole bunch of things and then expect it to go over swimmingly, you douche. Anyhow, so let's explain the first point, temperature variations. While Earth today has an average temperature of around 57.2 degrees Fahrenheit in the Lord's based units, or 14 degrees Celsius in the cringe units, the temperature on average, which remember, average also factors in the absolute shrinkage-inducing Arctic regions and Antarctic regions, was about 61.7 degrees Fahrenheit or 16.5 degrees Celsius. Now that may not sound too crazy, but the reality is, let's transfer that out, or let's extrapolate that out to your average summers, maybe being around like 85 degrees or so. Let's say wherever you are, it's 85 degrees. Then likely it would be the mid to upper 90s as a result of this global warm period. However, what I find a bit strange about this explanation is that the animals that are out there, like take the Stegosaurus for instance, that was around 155 to 145 million years ago. The T-Rex lived around 68 to 66 million years ago. As a result, at its peak, that is roughly 77 million years of time in between these two species. Humanity could live for another 10 million years, and we would still be 1 million years short of time between the Stegosaurus and the T-Rex. The T-Rex was closer to the pyramids being built than it was the Stegosaurus. So tragically, that interaction would have never happened. So why am I bringing this up? Because while it was warmer, the history of Earth shows that when these creatures were around, things could occasionally get cold. In fact, while Antarctica was still around, it had ice sheets, or before it had ice sheets, it was actually a lot warmer. It had forests. But it's clear a cooling period would take place as the dinosaurs we know of very likely began to develop feathers to combat temperature swings. The other aspect talked about, the solar radiation is so much different. Now this one, I guess, could slightly make sense, but only if you look at it from like a very specific angle. Sort of like how Count Chocula is a part of a balanced breakfast. If you do the same thing, the sun's luminosity has only increased by less than like 1% between the time frame of the T-Rex wrecking faces and then the dawn of man. So while the atmosphere isn't as thick as it used to be, given varying actions that led to much higher levels of carbon dioxide back in the day, I don't know, maybe their own industrial revolution, but more likely probably just volcanoes, the reality is not all that much has changed. Like, easily dinosaurs could have survived in the current era. Not to mention, again, I don't want to make waves, but they were using modern genetics to splice in the missing pieces. We know this because this is like a huge plot point in the first one. Bro, I really am becoming CinemaSins. God help me. It's not a bad channel. I'm just not here to critique. Now, you know what? Who am I kidding? I love to critique. This is dumb. Mainly because if they wanted these creatures to survive in the first place, why would they have genetically engineered them to actually, not be able to deal with living outside, which is exactly where they were? Along with this, it is cited openly that these animals just couldn't survive anywhere else during this time frame and that they had to retreat to higher oxygen levels down in the equatorial region because the oxygen was more plentiful down there. No! The levels fluctuated around this time, but the reality is they actually, all the oxygen that was there then, it's about today's levels or even possibly a little lower. So oxygen levels are not really a large issue for these creatures. I'm sorry if I sound like flabbergasted. If I was watching this, what are we doing here? The reason they are actually as large as they were essentially was just an evolutionary arms race that would take place between the different species. And given the vast amount of time, the body plans had plenty of time to experiment, which then led to the absolute tyrant lizard, or the T-Rex, who were horrific creatures to say the least. It was mostly just to combat one another, and the largest creature who could stay fed and have enough time to grow larger was the one who was able to reproduce the most. I swear to God, I'm gonna end up on Reddit again. Somebody said I had a, what is it? Not folksy, not textbook, expected condescension brought on by rural upbringing. It was a strange statement. Anyways, I don't know if it's condescension. It might sound like that. I probably do sound like a douche sometimes, but all the points brought up to the dinosaurs retreating to the equatorial region are literally undone by one major thing that's already shown. The literal Brontosaurus living in New York that clearly had a migratory pathway through the area. I assume it's New York. It could be any northeastern city for all I know, but that was a full-blown and full-grown dinosaur from the earlier variations. So if North America had all of these things wrong with it, then how was this able to survive in this area and grow to full size? What does all of this really mean? The rule of cool trumps all. That's what it is. So yeah, I did have to be a giant nerd and discuss the ecological consistencies of that for a moment. So let's move on to the actual topic for today. For instance, what the hell was that thing at the end? I know, honestly, actually I feel kind of bad for it, but to understand how that was even created in the first place and man's hubris, we get to talk about my favorite topic on this rock, genetic edits. Strap in because we're going to get kind of technical in this one. Now, gene editing tools have been around for quite some time, but the reality is we haven't really known about DNA for all that long. I mean, given the age of our species. In 1869, Swiss physiological chemist Friedrich Miescher identified what he would call a nuclein in the nuclei of the human white blood cell. Eventually, it would become known that this was actually the genetic material that is the driving force of all life, or at least the plan for it. Now, what I always find fascinating is humans will mess with things long before we even understand what we were doing. For instance, take cows or dogs. Cows used to be much more gangly and had less meat. Eventually, through selective breeding, we were able to reproduce, or at least produce cows that were more resilient but had more meat on their bones. Dogs, on the other hand, every one of them started as wolves, which had a pretty standard body plan that was capable in its environment. At first, we would probably steal puppies because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's running away holding another animal's offspring because we think it looks cute. As time passed, we would at first just want more chill wolves to hang out with. As some wolves were more relaxed than others, they would approach ancient man's fires and look for scraps and get somewhat used to being around us. As time passed, we would actually take these wolves' puppies and then selectively breed them with other more docile wolves to create friends instead of just hunting companions. And as time passed even further, we would actually continue breeding in other traits that were desirable that would then be expressed in the offspring. To this end, we created the pug, which we gotta go back, but we were eventually engaging in gene alteration through selection of different breeding adults. And this would lead to the canines we have today. Seems like a pretty good thing, doesn't it? Well, not always, because again, we were messing with something we didn't fully understand. Mainly because this same idea would also spread to royal families to keep the bloodlines pure, as they would call it, which would then result in the Habsburg jaw. An autopsy was performed on Charles II of Spain, which clearly the physician was being a bit overzealous in his description, but here's the quote he had. His corpse did not contain a single drop of blood. His heart was the size of a peppercorn, his lungs corroded, his intestines rotten and gangrenous. He has a single testicle, black as coal, and his head was full of water. So as you can see, gene editing tactics were applied, but in the wrong conditions, they could be highly detrimental and rudimentary at best, really. But then, the nuclear age would come about, which a lot of things would change for humanity. And not just with our super goated and in no way problem ability to just nuke ourselves into oblivion. By using radiation and with the understanding that it could in fact alter genes, we were able to induce random mutations in tomatoes, for instance, that could make it larger or juicier or just kill the tomato. It really just depends on what genes were changed and what was damaged and what was still around. But this method also leaves a lot to be desired, really, because the reality is it's random. And with what we can apply to, food or things that are not as important, if we wanted to, say cure cancer or genetic research, or do something actually important with our time, like create a mutated T-Rex in order to make at least $100 in sales to come look at this thing, our methods would need to be refined. And this brings us back to 2017 Roanoke. Feels like a lifetime ago. And why 2017 Roanoke? Because apart from my senior seminar paper being on Toxoplasmosis gondii, I would also do several presentations on CRISPR. That's right. Did you think that we weren't going to do CRISPR? Of course we were. Mainly because we were discussing gene editing. You buffoon. You absolute fool. Classic blunder. Anyways, so what is CRISPR? It is known as clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. I know, the original just rolls off the tongue so much better, doesn't it? But I suppose we'll just stick with CRISPR for now. So essentially, how this was discovered is due to an absolute onslaught that happens daily. Longtime viewers of this channel know this little factoid, but essentially the ocean, every single day, has 20 to 40% of all marine bacteria destroyed. That's roughly about 20% of the ocean's biomass wiped out due to viruses. I don't know why I repeated that fact twice, but it was repeated twice, 20 to 40%. So for reference, this is known as 4 gigatons or 4 billion metric tons, just wiped out, burst, causing more viruses to leak out into the surrounding area. So with 20 to 40% of all life being eradicated daily, I think within the end of the week, the oceans should be sterilized, right? So life doesn't typically allow itself just to be completely destroyed without some sort of resistance. And so CRISPR comes into play. This is essentially a proto-immune system of prokaryotes. Its purpose is to read RNA strands that it comes across with the cytoplasm utilizing what is known as the Cas9 protein complex, or viral DNA, essentially. This complex can remember fragments of viral DNA called spacers. When the Cas9 protein complex identifies something as viral genes, it will then proceed to chop it up and prevent the cell from making viruses and then rupturing itself. But it has to be accompanied by a short DNA tag known as a PAM sequence. This is a protospacer adjacent motif. The PAM sequence is incredibly important as this allows the Cas9 protein complex to figure out if it's viral or if its own genome, because otherwise it'll chop up its own genome and then it's screwed anyways. Once PAM is identified as viral, the DNA is cut up and then neutralized. Now, this is simply just there to deal with incoming threats, but how does this relate to Baldy at the end of the movie? Because if you wanted to do something less important like cure crippling genetic illnesses, you could utilize this same complex to patrol the DNA strands of pretty much anything. So let's say you wanted to, cure HIV, for instance, or develop a preventative measure beyond something like PrEP or PEP, which, if I remember correctly, really just disrupts reverse transcriptase, preventing HIV from being incorporated into your genome. Also, just, PSA, obviously, but if you think you've ever been exposed to HIV, you need to get on PEP, not PrEP, immediately. There is a time frame that is effective, and it can get into your cells prior to the HIV staking its claim, which can prevent infection. Post-exposure prophylaxis is what it is called. It's an emergency medication that is taken within 72 hours of exposure for 28 days. you can prevent the actual HIV infection. Whether that be a decision type of deal of whatever you do in your own life, which that is your business, I don't really care, or a healthcare worker because needle sticks happen all the time or something happens out on the job. I mean, I've been bled on when I did EMT ride-alongs. Like, it really just happens out of nowhere. This medication is absolutely goated. All right, so where was I? Oh, yes. Okay, so with this information in mind, let's say you wanted to prevent it more so than just outright cure it, because the process of curing is a little more complicated. You know, what is it? Unload the force multiplier rather than firing into a bulletproof vest. Utilizing information from Central European genomes, you can actually alter the delta 32 allele on chromosome 3, which is responsible for the CCR5 gene and subsequent expression, or that's where the CCR5 gene resides, and the subsequent expression of a specific protein complex on the cell. Now, what's interesting is this mutation arose by happen chance, which then resulted in those who had it to be somewhat more resistant to the plague, allowing their bodies to deal with it better and give their immune systems time to form an effective response. This is because Yersinia pestis actually will enter immune cells much like HIV does and destroy them from the inside out. Those who had this mutation had the protein complex either form partially covered by the cell membrane, making it difficult for the plague to enter, or outright had it form inside of the cell, removing the ability of the plague to attack the cell, allowing their immune system to continue to function and then fight off the plague. By altering this gene and applying that genetic information, you can actually prevent or at minimum make it much more difficult for HIV to enter a cell of a person. Be aware, however, HIV will develop other ways because HIV is humanity's biggest hater. Now, the other option still runs in the same vein, gene alteration. However, this one is much more aggressive. To this end, you can develop CRISPR in a way in which it can go in, cut out the targeted segment, and then remove it from the genome, thus stopping the virus from being created again. Or really, you could just chop it up, and then it's just HIV is kind of screwed at that point. Because remember, HIV implants into your genome, which then your body will occasionally read it, and then it creates more HIV. So in fact, recently a man was cured of HIV utilizing gene editing. So this is like no longer a hypothetical situation. This is like, we're right there. Of course, I believe he was undetectable. That is the key point. Could some of his cells still be infected? Of course. But so much of the genetic information was removed from his body at this point that the viral load isn't high enough to infect others because it can't even be detected. Because remember, it doesn't take one HIV particle to infect you. There has to be a viral load. So the viral load isn't high enough to infect you, you don't get infected. It's bizarre to me exactly how, like, you may not realize it, but it's like what we are on the cusp of currently. I remember talking to a fellow scientist in 2018, super smart woman, had her PhD. I believe she was working on her postdoc. We were discussing HIV, and I remember I brought up CRISPR, which she hadn't heard of yet in any like large capacity. I believe the Chinese at this point were trying to cure lung cancer with it. But prior, she stated, yeah, we'll never cure HIV ever. And when I mentioned that, she said, you know what, I'm gonna go take a look at that. She came back the next day, and basically she's like, maybe. And here we are 7 years later with this seemingly accomplished. Which brings us to the next point. How exactly do you implant genes? Because as far as I know, the Corps issued a cell cutter, not a splicer. So stupid. The old method, which has varying levels of success, would basically just involve a guide RNA that would look for this section that needs to be cut and the DNA template that you want to be spliced in. The DNA strand would be cut and the new information would be incorporated in during the repair process. And look at that. In theory, you have a new gene. Of course, this process was not always 100% good to go and just working every time. Many times it would fail. The new CRISPR method is associated with the transposase or Cas. This essentially can move in large DNA segments, and in this sense, you can replace entire genes with a huge amount of genetic information, which is gigantic for humanity, and it does not require a double-strand break to do it. Transposase is responsible for cutting and actually pasting DNA segments for your edification. What I find odd is actually I have a friend who's a geneticist, and a while back, it's been several years since we talked about it. Like, I believe this was in 2019. I think we were having a beer talking about this, but what they were actually finding is that some genes that they pasted into a genome would revert back to the old damaged gene, which makes you wonder if there's some sort of like genetic memory stored in the cell, so that it can reference that, I guess, and then make repairs. Which, if it is there, why do any of our cells age in the first place? I mean, it would seemingly track, though, given how effective the cell is at repairing genes after catastrophic damage. Like, double-strand breaks happen all the time. if you weren't aware. And I mean, as far as I know, you're not a Cronenberg monster, neither am I. I'd be interested to see if this idea has any merit to it. But yeah, also I'd be interested to see if viruses are really just endospores that never really came out of that phase. But anyways, this beautifully brings us to where we are today. First off, again, the security system in place, being undone by a Snickers wrapper, I'm beginning to think maybe this isn't an issue of these things just being like crazy unstoppable, but really it's more about how every security system is so hilariously stupid that dinosaurs have no choice but to escape. One product placement Snickers bar compromises an entire facility that has no alarm. Brother, die. We get it. It's incredibly stupid. But then the whole concept of humans losing turf. Look, we render species extinct without even trying. Hell, a lot of the times we're actively trying to keep them alive, and we still end up killing them. It's been stated that we are currently in another mass extinction, and this time it's actually caused by humanity. The only other time, as far as I know, that a species has actually had this much of an impact on the planet and the species around it was when cyanobacteria developed and started pumping out oxygen into the atmosphere as a waste product that killed off many of the anaerobes that led to a mass extinction. And here we are, literally just the multicellular version. Time is a flat circle. Anyhow, this is a pro-human channel, and it's our rock, so I suppose maybe we could do things a little better, but we're still pretty great. Regardless of all that, when we look at D. rex, or Distortus rex as he is called, or the Fraptors, which their actual names are Mutodons, which I thought my name was stupid, but Mutodons? Anyways, Fraptors is way better. We can see several things are a bit strange with this creature, but you know what we haven't done in a really, really long time that people still hit me up on Instagram in comment sections. Also, disclaimer, I know you guys want to comment that on Instagram. You're scaring the new subscribers. I'm not the feet guy, but flying in the face of that statement, starting with the feet we see on this species, it is still similar to a T-Rex, just distorted. This is the hard-hitting facts you guys come here for. The back feet possess 3 toes and claws several feet in length. There exists a dew claw further up, which is standard for your average T-Rex at the time, and it'll walk in a digitigrade fashion, given that it walks on the balls of its feet and its heels and ankles exist further up and don't touch the ground. But as we go up the leg, we can see something rather interesting, however, apart from, you know, everything else wrong with it. The femur attachment points are actually more splayed outwards, which would clearly have been done given that it is now a wretched abomination. Still not as bad as the anglerfish, but still pretty bad. But we'll kind of get there. The tail of this creature is no longer going to counterbalance its body as much as it used to anymore, and as a result of this, the tail is much more squat and faces downwards. It actually looks like a Brumac. Like 100%, this thing straight up looks like a Brumac from Gears of War. Anyways, its back legs used to be the fulcrum of which its body rests, but it's not really the case anymore as its center of gravity has moved forward. As we move back up to the back, we see the latissimus dorsi area is much larger and the shoulder blades also take up more real estate. I would absolutely love to not show you the whole thing so that you can wonder why, but we also see why. This creature sports arms that are clearly attached more securely to the shoulder blades. In fact, it has shoulder blades very similar to another creature, which we will talk about here in a moment. The arms are quite long. Okay, well, we'll talk about it now, actually. These are very clearly primate-inspired arms. Given the fact that the arms terminate in 3 fingers and it walks on its knuckles, someone clearly combined gorilla Hox genes with this thing. But what is a Hox gene? If someone says Hawk-Tua, you're getting banned. The Hox gene's old me, man. She turned out to be a douche. Well, I don't even know she turned out to be a douche, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, probably. It seems like she kind of got scammed, too. Is Roanoke simping? Probably not. I don't know. That's just from my layman perspective. I could absolutely be wrong. She could be a total, like, turd in the punch bowl. Also, if you, I'm just going to say it, man. If you invested in a meme coin in any real capacity, what was it, the Hawk-Tua coin? Maybe this is an important lesson for you. Anyways, the Hox genes are essentially the genes that are massively active during the time when your body is first forming. Acting as the master genes, they will actually provide instructions on what body parts are going to form where and how they should look. Once this is done, the Hox genes will actually switch off and the regular genes will take over. Behind this switch off, technically speaking, I guess, the ability to regrow limbs may lie in just turning these genes back on in specific areas, allowing for limbs to reform. May have to do a Deadpool episode or something on that, covering this a little more in depth, but this is how the process works. So when the D-Rex was forming, not only did it have T-Rex DNA forming it and dictating what should grow where, as with, the small, weird little vestigial arms on the front, more like probably anchored into the muscle rather than shoulder portions of the thoracic structuring, it would have the larger arms that are much longer, stemming from the information brought on by the gorilla DNA that would push its body to where it is now. And this would have other profound consequences and overall just make you rather uncomfortable to look at this thing. As we look past its weird pectoral arms, gross, its head is actually quite strange beyond just being bald. The snout is much more squat and close to the face, resembling the structuring of an ape face. The teeth are still conical in structuring as well from its T-Rex lineage, but the eyes do not reside so much on the sides of the head, but instead appear to be a mid-step between T-Rex and ape, being more forward-facing but still quite spread out. But the most interesting structure is the top of the head. As we look at it, it is unmistakably ugly. Like, have you seen a gorilla head before? Having the initial forehead region, which is, apparently goated for gorillas, as you move posteriorly, it will continue to crest upwards. This is due to the ridge known as the sagittal crest. The actual smooth brain look gorillas have is because the chewing muscles are massive in this area and they attach to this crest because they are eating fibrous plant material. It is highly likely that the D-Rex skull has the same sagittal crest, and as a result, it is also very highly likely it has a much more powerful bite than a T-Rex would normally have, given the extra muscle and more solid connection points. So, how would this be accomplished, though? Well, given the discussion, it's pretty clear to me they weren't just using frog DNA in order to bridge a few gaps and keep the dinosaurs as close to original as possible. Instead, given the leaps in genetic technology around this time frame, the Hox genes from gorillas were likely taken and then applied to the D-Rex. And this would have likely been the first of its kind, mainly because if you take a look at the Fraptors, those were just the same class, like of phylum classes of raptors and pterosaurs. However, bridging the class gap between reptiles and mammals is absolutely an entirely different ballgame because of the genetic structures, and this would result in the conglomeration looking like something that needs to be nuked from orbit. But anyhow, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, then please leave a like, this helps get the video out there, and subscribing helps us finally crack 1.2 million subs. I don't really know what happened the last couple of months, but oh my god, has there been a slowdown. Anyways, let me complain a little more about it. I'll drop my Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Roanoke Tells channel links, and other stuff in the description. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank mine real quick. At the, what is that? Do my eyes deceive me? At the astronaut tier, we have It's Not a Spoon back again. Dang, brother, it's been a while. Thank you for your continued support. At the astrophysicist tier, we have Death Dancer, Mayura, and Webitron Supreme. Thank you guys. And at the full-fledged scientist tier, we have Stutz, Some Big Nerd, welcome to the channel, Metric System, Invictus Echo, Official Texan, and the homeless guy on the street. And to the rest of my patrons, I do appreciate y'all's support as well, because I'm a long way towards helping out, so thank you. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, and I will see y'all in the next one.